Thanks for tuning in to the Scaling Therapy Practice. This is the show where we empower mission-driven helpers to launch life-changing online courses. In this episode, I'm going to be talking with Alaina Smith. She is launching a course on helping people through trauma on her webpage, betrayal2beauty.com. That's betrayal2beauty.com. And in this episode, I ask her 10 questions about why does it matter? Why are you launching this course? What problem are you solving? And why does it matter to your customers? And so it helps people clarify the win. As you're launching a product, the clearer you are on the win that you can get for other people, the more it's going to connect with them. So you're going to listen to Alaina's responses to these questions. Why are you making the course? Why doesn't this exist already? Why now? Why do people need this product? Why will people want what you're offering? Why would somebody pay for this? Not just why do they want it, but why are they putting down money for it? Why would people buy from a competitor? Why would people cross the street to buy from you instead of your competitor? And then why does it matter to you? So you're going to listen to Alaina's responses as she is going through this on her own. Maybe this will help you clarify your win on what you're going for and why people would buy from you and your product instead of from your competitor. Thanks for joining us, and take a listen to my interview with Alaina Smith on clarifying the win. Hello, and welcome back to the Scaling Therapy Practice. This is James Marland, your host. This is the show where we help mission-driven leaders launch life-changing online courses. I have a special guest today, Alaina Smith. I'm very happy to have her here today. She's working on a course to help people with betrayal trauma. Alaina, welcome to the show.
Thanks. So glad to be here.
So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us where you practice, where you live, and a little bit about your family.
Yeah. So I am in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm a licensed professional counselor, certified advanced alcohol and drug counselor, and certified sex addiction therapist. Run my own private practice and working on doing the courses and things online as a second company. So I have Mariposa Counseling and Mariposa Recovery Institute. Married, 3 kids and a dog, and just kind of doing the thing.
And I'm going to say it wrong because English is my first language, but I mess it up all the time. Mariposa?
Mariposa, yeah.
How do you spell that?
Mariposa.
Okay. And it has something to do with transformation, right? Like butterflies. And can you explain? It's a really unique name. Can you explain briefly how you came up with that imagery? Because your logo is like a butterfly, and it's a really transformative thing. So can you explain a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So mariposa is the Spanish word for butterfly. I do speak Spanish, and so that's where that came from. And so it's a nod to me being Spanish speaking, as well as just the whole metamorphosis that goes through with a butterfly and that idea of transformation. And I think a lot of us are aware of caterpillar, cocoon, butterfly, but really that understanding that in that cocoon and that chrysalis, they turn to goo. Like they're not at all a recognizable person compared to what they were before, or insect, right? And then when they come out as a butterfly, again, that's that full-on transformation. And so I just love that as a picture for mental health, because I think sometimes we have to undo what was and become something that looks like nothing and messy and kind of gross in the middle. But that's on that way to becoming something absolutely beautiful.
That's amazing. I really like that metaphor, because when you're going through that struggle, you do kind of feel like goo.
Right.
You're like, oh, it's rough.
Mm-hmm.
So and that is, as I've been working with you, that is your mission. You're helping people take the ugly stuff of their life and turn it into something beautiful. In fact, I think that's a little bit of how you came up with your webpage title, right? What is it's a beauty or betrayal to beauty, right?
Yeah. So that idea of that transformation, and that the things in life that are really hard or awful or ugly, they don't have to stay that way. We can find
Mm,
beauty on the other side.
that's amazing. So, today we're gonna talk about you're creating a course, and we're gonna talk about a little bit about like some questions to ask yourself when you're getting ready to launch your course or create your course. Just some, if you can answer these questions well, you are on your way to having a product that people will be attracted to. And the clearer, we're always learning, but the clearer you can answer these questions, the more likely it is for people to respond to what you have. So
Mhm.
we're about halfway through in creating your online course together.
Yeah.
Um, and I've just been amazed at how clear you are with your message and your presentation. And so I wanted to do this interview with you so you can kind of explain, help people understand what you're going through and what you've kind of processed through as you make your course. You ready?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So these are questions to help you flesh out your product
Yeah.
service for your ideal clients. This comes from a training I went through called Atlas. So here are the questions. So the first question is why? you know, why are you making this?
So for me, I think it was really that idea that I'm one person with a limited time frame, but I recognize that I have knowledge and skills that are valuable. And so I wanted to be able to reach more people than I can in the traditional therapy setting. I've also run like in person groups. I've done the educational piece that way. I love doing that with clients. And so knowing like I have this skill set, but even the in person groups, like I have a limited space, I have limited time.
Mhm.
I can't do that ongoing all of the time and put the time into it that I would really love to. And something like an online course allows me to use that curriculum I've developed, use that information, and just reach a lot more people.
Absolutely. That's you just kind of encapsulated one of the big benefits of online courses is that you can reach people with a broader audience, um, and you can help more people. Your time's limited. We're all faced with that time limited equation and problem. And so online courses are a great way to uh, maximize your time and help people in a way that they can reach you even when you're already doing
Mhm.
something else. So the next question is, so why doesn't this exist already?
I think this is one of those things where there are some variations of this, but everyone's going to approach it a little bit differently. And I think what makes my approach a little different is coming from within the Christian faith standpoint. I don't think it's talked about enough in the church. I don't think it's handled as well as it could be in a lot of spaces. And so this is an area where a lot of women, they may find some resources online, but if it doesn't match up with their faith background, I think it's just harder for them to tie into. And so really being able to be kind of that like subset where there aren't as many voices or things, or sometimes it's a personality thing, right? Like I get it. I've lived it in my own way. And so I have both sides of it. I'm not just someone who's experienced it or just someone who has book knowledge. I kind of have that marriage of the two. And I think that makes it unique.
Uh, so why why don't you think it's in the Christian circle? Why don't people talk about the trauma and the betrayal and like all this the messiness and the brokenness like this?
I think just because it's hard and it involves such a taboo topic. So with betrayal trauma, we're really looking at a lot of like sexual behaviors, right? And so that idea of just sexuality in general can be very taboo in the church. I think there are a lot of movements making really significant headway to help change some of that and to make it more approachable, to make it less taboo. But I think just so much of the stigma and the shame around it all is really what has made it so hard for people to have
Mm,
those conversations. And that's where I think something like an online course, there's a safety in that. There's an anonymity in that. And so they don't have to go talk to their pastor and name it out loud. They don't have to maybe be seen in a waiting room by someone else in their congregation who knows what that office is for. Instead, they get to gently approach it from home with safety and anonymity.
yeah, I grew up growing up in the church. If somebody had an issue like this, they just went away. Like, they didn't stay in the church. They didn't talk to anybody, or they just tried to keep it quiet and kind of suffered alone and got more and more isolated and
Yeah.
and lonely. Um, And so it's really refreshing to see new, the new programs and efforts by people to actually get this out there, because that's, those secrets make us sick. And the church can sometimes be the sickest place in the town, because we just have all these secrets. So, all right. So why this group? Why this group for you? What um what makes you sensitive to this group?
I think because I also have a history of being in relationships where infidelity was present. And so prior to my now husband, I had two boyfriends that both engaged in cheating and infidelity. And at the time, I didn't know betrayal trauma was a word for that. I had no framework with which to understand what I was going through, what was happening to me. And then it happened years later that I got this education as a certified sex addiction therapist, learned so much about betrayal trauma and started to put together the pieces of like, I was that person. And so I think that's part of where I've really uniquely connected to these individuals and I understand it. And
Mm,
I want to make sure that people don't have to feel as alone as I felt. And they
mm,
don't have to feel crazy like how I felt crazy. And that there are voices out there saying, hey, this is a real thing. And we really do get better on the other side. And there is a path through this.
yeah. I think that your authenticity
Hmm.
really shines through. And that's what, when people uh buy a course, they're buying the information, but they're also buying the teacher, right?
Right.
They're buying, like, does this person really know me? Do they get me? And I think one of the key concepts is knowing who your authentic person is. If you're trying to sell something that you're not, just to sell it, it's it shows, like, it really shows,
Hmm.
just the way. And the opposite is true. Like, if you are your authentic self and you know the storms people have gone through and you can help them navigate through it, that also shines through. It's easier to connect with your ideal audience when you're authentic. And it
Yeah.
just really shines through with your course, and how you're, just talking about the issues, and always giving hope. Like, somebody who maybe hasn't gone through betrayal trauma might not emphasize the hope. Like, yes, it's hard, but you
Hmm.
can get through it. But you're emphasizing, because you've been through some of this, you're emphasizing what they need to hear. They need to
Yeah.
hear that there is the butterfly at the end of the cocoon type of
Right.
message. So great. Okay. Um, did I ask why now? I don't think I asked why now. So the next question is, why now? Why launch this product now?
I think because my wait list is longer than I can get to. So I
Mm,
can't get people into individual therapy. I'm full that way. And so that's, my other avenues of helping and delivering this message and being a part of this. I'm at my max for time and capacity. And it also just, I think, connection to resources. So being connected to you, being connected to Course Creation
mhm,
Studio, just like
mhm,
understanding those pieces laid the framework for now to work. Whereas if that
mhm.
wasn't there, it wouldn't have worked to do it now.
And you're just one person in one church or one town,
Hmm.
and you're full, right? Like, just it is this I heard I was listening to a testimony of somebody at I go to a program. If you see my shirt, it's called Regeneration,
Hmm.
and it's a 12-step recovery program. And there was somebody who had gone through the program, and they mentioned betrayal trauma in their end of course testimony. And I'm like, I know what that is. Like, but it's not spoken about.
Mm-mm.
It's just there. Like, it's just there. It's everywhere. Because the church really doesn't, unless you have a program for it or are somebody who's gone through it, you just you do the best you can, and you don't
Yeah.
talk about
Well, and I think it's often named as like a sin issue, which isn't
it.
wrong,
Mhm.
but it's this idea like, oh, the person you're married to has a problem and they need to get better. So come alongside and support them. And there's a role for that. But I think there's not enough understanding of like, even though it didn't happen, like it didn't happen to me directly, right? Like they didn't directly hurt me, they hurt me. It happened
Mhm.
around me, it involves
Mhm.
me. And I think that's what a lot of these women feel so unseen because there's this idea like, okay, well, but it still happened to me in some way. And I think
Mm,
a lot of times they don't even have words to put to that. Instead, it is that like, okay, let me put on like, the good wife face and I'm going to try and help or
yes.
whatever. And that's a really hard thing to do, especially when you don't know, like there's something biologically happening in your brain because of what you've gone through.
Mm. Yeah, they assume the good Christian or church thing to do is just suffer in silence and like make sure there's peace in the home while they're dying, while they're
Yeah,
dying inside. So,
absolutely.
that kind of relates to so the next question is why do people need this course or product?
They need this to have validation, to know they're
Mm,
not alone, to know they're not crazy. I just said to a client earlier this week, she was describing some things, and I was like, that's PTSD. This has given you PTSD. It's an actual clinically diagnosable thing. And she just started sobbing. And she was like, that's the first time someone has allowed this to really be real. And I just thought, I have experience after experience of people being like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's why I feel this way. All of a sudden, I'm not insane. And that's what people
mm,
need to know is I tell them, like, you will feel crazy. You don't recognize you, but your brain and body is doing exactly what it was designed to do when something traumatic occurs. You're actually not crazy. You're struggling. You're going through something. All of this is supposed to be, as awful as it feels, it's supposed to be this way. And when they can understand, like, hey, this is a process and my brain is going through something, but there's an end to that something. It's not going to stay here as long as I keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I think that's why people need this. They need to hear that message to know that, like, this is normal. As crazy as it all feels, it is normal to react the way you're reacting.
okay. And then going a little deeper, so that's why do people need this product? Why will people want this?
Because they'll feel seen, they'll feel heard, they'll have an understanding. I think one of the biggest issues with this is that sense of isolation. And when you realize, hey, there's enough people dealing with this thing that there's this whole course for this, and there's this whole body of research about this, all of a sudden you're not alone anymore. And I think that sensation of alone
Yes.
is so damaging. And that's what is the biggest struggle, I think, for a lot of people. And so having this, it's like, hey, I need to not feel alone. I need to feel like I belong to a community. There's a group of people who get me and who understand what I'm
Mm.
going through.
Uh, and it's something that is like uh, foreign to other people. Like that piece of
Yeah.
information can really open up somebody's world. I remember taking a walk with a friend of mine, and he was describing his family situation, some of the problems he's had. And I'm like, oh, you were in a dry alcoholic family.
Mhm.
You had a dry alcoholic family system. He's like, what is that? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's when somebody experienced alcoholism and everybody still has the same roles, but nobody's using alcohol anymore. It's a very simplified
Right.
version of it. Like, I'm not a therapist, but I'd been to some training and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, that's the family system. And it just blew his mind because then all the pieces sort of like went, "Coom," and they fell into place. And like, that is why I feel this way. That is why we're still struggling with this. It
Mhm.
was just this offhanded comment because I'd been to some training about alcoholic family systems, and that's what this, that's what this does. Like this
Yeah.
type of course will make things clear to people who are just living in that hurt and pain and fog
Mhm.
for this issue. Like, why do I feel this way? Why does it hurt so bad? Why do I keep trying but nothing helps? Um, yeah, just giving names to it and making it
Mhm.
make sense is very valuable. Going even deeper is those, but why would somebody pay for this? Why
Yeah.
would somebody want to put down a few bucks to get this type of course?
Well, and I think, I tell people they end up with an accidental master's degree in this because of becoming a Google researcher. And here's the thing, you want to pay for it because it saves you time, energy, and effort. You can
Mm,
find all this information. You can consume book after book and listen to podcast after podcast, or you can get it in a concise soundbite manner that matches with the idea. Like, that's why trying to keep things to like 15 to 20 minutes at most for each lesson, because when you're going through trauma, your brain can't take much more than that. You're not withholding and you're not holding on to the information. You're not keeping it in and digesting it well and, processing it all. And so what I'm doing is giving people the space to not have to do all that research, to not have to spend hour after hour after hour Googling and reading and doing, when it's put together in a concise, easy to locate place all at one go. And they're not having to sift through it to figure out what is actually backed research wise and what isn't, and what is beneficial and what's not beneficial.
And I think that goes back to also they're getting it from you.
Yeah.
Like if you're your authentic self, you can communicate to the people who connect to you. There's many of them. You might not help everybody in betrayal trauma, but there are people who are going to just like, oh, she gets me and I can trust her. And isn't that like the trust factor of getting better? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So it's that idea that we heal in relationship, right? Like, we are wired for connection. And so when you're with someone, I tell people, like, I could be the best therapist in the world, right? Which I by no means think I am, but I could be the absolute best therapist in the world. I'm still not going to be a fit for everybody. There's something so special about sitting down with someone and you just connect with them and your personalities mesh, and maybe they're only what, like, I might only be what someone needs for a season. I may not be someone who stays with them for years and years and years, but that's okay. Our needs change, our desires change. And so we ebb and flow. And so I think that's where having that trust and being able to go, okay, you've walked this. I believe you. I get this with you. Let's dive in. I think it cuts down on so much of just like the fluff piece that goes with like getting to know somebody or things like that. Whereas it's like, if you have that trust, then the information you're being given, your brain's already assigning extra credibility to it.
Yes.
And that, I think, is what matters. When like, you are not just some number on a page at the end of the day, but you're a human life, valued and dignified by the other human, sitting across from you or across the video screen from you. I think that goes so far.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That, the healing in community, healing in relationship, making sure when people know you value them, it's really important. I remember working at a freestanding psych hospital, and we had hundreds of people coming in every day. It was a large office with like 30 therapists and an inpatient unit and a day hospital unit. Anyways, I remember every day when I walked through the parking lot, I would pick up trash. Why would I pick up trash? Because a clean office means people, you respect people. It
Yeah.
just was like, and I wanted people to respect our office and respect our building and know that we valued them. And if they could see that even through like a clean lawn, even just through a clean lawn, that we respected them and we mean business, we're professional, then I know, and you talked about the research, there's research that shows that people who feel that value listen to their doctor better.
Yes.
And I wanted people to get well. Like I wanted them to come to their therapy and do, talk and do their homework. When the doctor says, do this homework or take this medicine or, do this thing, I wanted them to actually respect the doctor and do it. And so why would they do it? It's because you show value. And as that is where I was going with that. All right. So sometimes I go on tangents. I think it made sense. We'll have to re-listen to that.
It did make sense. I got
it. Okay. All right. A couple last questions. So there are other courses out there. Why would somebody buy from a competitor?
I think just because of what you said, it's that authenticity piece. So we're all going to maybe have a slightly different lens on it or a slightly different understanding because of having been through it or because of our own personal life experiences, right? Like I'm as much formed by my education as I am by my life experiences. And so you're going to find people who maybe have a similar walk to you or have a similar background, which I think, again, enhances just that understanding. And I know we've all had that moment of like being with somebody and be like, oh, I think they're helping me. And then they say this one thing and you're like, wow, you really don't understand me. And now I
Mm,
question everything. Like I remember seeing a therapist after my second was born and we were doing really well together. And then I made a comment about something and it was just a part of my lifestyle, part of my belief system. And immediately she jumped in and questioned it as if it was problematic. Well, why would you say that? Why is that the thing you would hold? And in that moment, there was this immediate break in trust and rapport because it was that very clear, like, you don't get me. And now you're
mm,
trying to change me, but I'm not here for this. And that's what I think makes some courses more valuable to people than others. I'm not going to be a fit for everybody, but I'm also not trying to be. I'm trying to be a
mhm.
fit for the people I am meant to be a fit for. And I want them to know I get them and we have those shared experiences.
That's great. I do think just that I'm trying to be a fit for the people that I fit with. That's not exactly what you said, but that's the message. Like you are not a fit for everybody, and in fact, if you tried to be a fit for everybody, you would burn out because
Mhm.
there's just so much competition on the top where people try to be all for everybody. You're trying to be very important for the group of people you can help,
Yeah.
like that smaller niche group. Okay, so why would people so this flips the question then.
Mhm.
Instead of buying from your competitors, why would people cross the street to buy from you?
I think it is because I really am not here just to make money. I'm here to help. And so there's a very big difference in feeling. And I do believe that people, I'm not saying everyone who makes a ton of money isn't helping either, but it's that idea that our bottom line and our end goals matter. My end goal
Mhm,
is to help the people I'm meant to help and to get this information out there, to spread the knowledge and to hopefully really do something that's intentional. I'm okay with it being small or slow because I think slow growth is strong roots. And so it's that idea that I want to really make sure people are seen, heard, and understood. I'm not just throwing a bunch of information at them. I'm not just doing those things. I genuinely want this to be something that can have impact, that can have value. And so that's where like having a grounding exercise at the end of every lesson, like it's not just education, there's some kind of tangible application piece too. And
mhm,
not every course is going to have that. And so I think that's something also that kind of sets me apart is I'm trying very hard to make it like, let's give you information, but let's help you do something today that helps you feel better today.
mm. And just I think that's why we connect because I wanna help people too. Like, if I'm not a
Mhm.
therapist, but if I can help people get help through education, um, it's it connects with me. And also, just so what you said, helping is more important than money. It's not that the money isn't important because part of part of what, allows us to help more and more people is getting value back from what we put out.
Yeah.
But the helping is the primary. Like, the people that will be attracted to me and my services are people who have the money, like, second or third, and the helping and the mission part first.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of people out there who have the money side first. That's great, you know, but that those people would not necessarily be attracted to some I do because I have the helping first.
Right.
I, and one of my goals, I have a guy who's a mentor, and he was like a millionaire, and he spent, his 50s and later going on missions trips and helping people and funding stuff and donating things. And I'm like, that that's somebody who I idolize. Like, I idolize the
Mhm.
person who does well with what they have and makes enough money to, do these mission impacts and like get out there, do things with their money that they wouldn't do in person, but they help people. And that's one of
Yeah.
those things that really, um, it was impactful to me. Like, I didn't even know he was a millionaire. I didn't even know he was like this really rich person. It was just who he was. And I'm like, oh, that is
Mhm.
the way to live. So anyways, so that is why people just as you said, that is why people would buy from you because you're authentic. Like, they would
Mhm.
buy from the authentic Alaina. Last question. Why does this matter? Like, if you could just sum it up, why does your course, your program, why does it matter to the world?
It matters because it takes something that's hidden and in the dark and stigmatized, and it brings it out into the light. It eradicates shame, it creates understanding, and it helps people get unstuck. It's very easy to stay stuck in shame, stuck in stigma. And this is a way to know what's happening inside yourself and then be able to move through that.
Well said. So thank you so much for this interview. This was really encouraging to hear. Just because I'm excited for you, like your heart shines through, and it's just this message of hope for people who feel stuck in the muck. Where can people find you? We are going to do a webinar. I'll put the dates in the show notes so we can talk if you have something about the webinar. But where can people find you, and what is the webinar we're going to be doing?
Yeah, so the webinar is going to be talking a bit about that idea of living in contradiction and how, life isn't all one way or all the other way. Trauma likes to be very black and white, very rigid. And so just kind of helping people mold that and just understanding that piece as well. And people can find me at betrayaltobeauty.com. And then I'm on Facebook and Instagram. It's Mariposa Recovery Institute on Facebook. Instagram is Betrayal to Beauty, TO, not the number. And so each of those locations.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, please, if you want to sign up for that webinar, it'll be in the show notes, and visit her webpage and follow her and just see where her process as she launches her course in the next month or two. All right, this is James from Course Creation Studio and the Scaling Therapy Practice. We will see you next time. Hey, as we end, I want to remind you that Alaina is going to be doing a webinar, a learning event for people who have experienced trauma, or for people who are helping people who have experienced trauma. It's called The Path to Peace, Transforming Trauma from Hurting to Helping. This is going to be on April 18th, 2024 at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be a 1-hour presentation where she talks about understanding trauma, tool for transformation, and helping people use trauma in their healing journey instead of being hurt by it. So make sure you tune into that. It's part of her launching her online courses for helping people through their trauma. And she has a 4-lesson video series with therapeutic interventions and mindfulness techniques and a workbook for you. So I hope you join that webinar, The Path to Peace, Transforming Trauma from Hurting to Helping, if you have experienced some trauma in your life and you're stuck. So make sure you check that out. The link will be in the show notes. And of course, you can go to her webpage, which will also be in the show notes, to find out more about her blogging and newsletter, everything that can help people struggling with trauma. She is on a mission to help people not feel alone. And I just love that about her and her mission. So check it out. Check out the show notes. Thanks again for listening.